What a perfect day. We're coming up on TD Garden, the Garden. That's where the Bruins and the Celtics play. Welcome back, I'm Tedward. Welcome to my driveway and welcome to the all-new 2026 Subaru Outback Wilderness that I've been living with for the past week. I've done about 300 miles in this thing so far, and I wanted to get a good handle on what it was like before I reported to you. We're gonna go on a little trip today. I'm gonna put the bike in the back, do some outdoorsy things, because that's what this thing is all about. And it's really fascinating to me that Subaru can have such vastly different reputations amongst the brands. Is it the vape smoking WRX STI owners, or is it your aunt and her roommate for the past 20 years buying matching Foresters or Outbacks? I mean, it is so interesting. And what I love most about Subaru right now is that they used to be sort of ordinary. It was just another car, but in a world where everything is going to an inline four-cylinder or hybrids, Subaru sure has hybrids and four cylinders, but they have stayed true to this Boxer setup. This one has a 2.4 liter turbo Boxer engine making 260 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. It's made it to a CVT. I'm not going to complain about that because honestly, the CVT allows this thing to absolutely scoot. Now, if this looks pretty big, you're not wrong. It very much toes the line between station wagon and SUV, and it is definitely more of that SUV crossover than it is a station wagon based off of a sedan, which it used to be. This was a legacy back in the day, but this is the first year that the Subaru Outback's new design is its own thing. There is no more legacy. Rest in peace. We'll pour one out for the legacy. But the Subaru Outback has now sort of become an SUV, but they really didn't want it to be an SUV. Then it's going to start to encroach on the Forester or the Ascent. So it still, oddly enough, looks like a station wagon until you park it next to a normal crossover. And then you start to realize, man, this thing is big. But it is lifted. This has 9.5 inches of ground clearance. That's like 2 inches more than my GX 460. So it actually is a formidable thing. Of course, it's a symmetrical all-wheel drive system, but now the style is a bit different. They went bold, especially on the Wilderness, and this car is an exercise of figuring out how many times can we put a trim level badge on a car. It is literally everywhere. Ooh, see, these doors, they're a little flimsy. Like, I feel like this is a strong car for sure, but there's times when I do things and I'm like, oh, I thought that was going to be heavier. Wilderness badges here, Wilderness tags here. It's literally everywhere on the floor mats. They want you to know it. But let's look under the hood. Okay. They do not have hood struts. This is actually my first time looking under here. And that's a very familiar sight to the Subaru lovers. It's a Boxer 4-cylinder with that gorgeous little top-mounted intercooler. It looks pretty darn cool under here. I never fully understood these locations for these oil filters. I feel like if I do that, it's just going to dump everywhere and I'm going to have rags everywhere here. But that's fine. I'm sure a lot of you have done a bajillion oil changes in these. And the thing is, it kind of sounds good. Did that close all the way? It did. Nice. The thing about the style, this is new. I think it's a little bold and it's very boxy. Now, you could complain about some of the plastic cladding. I think the plastic cladding is, frankly, incredibly practical because if you're going to actually take this down trails and be out in the woods, you're not going to pinstripe the side of this thing. You're actually going to be able to go through some branches, and this is wider than the actual body line. So, unless, I'm sure you could do some damage, but I don't think the average Subaru owner really cares. The only thing you might care about is the price, because this one is about $48,000. We'll get that window sticker in a minute. Let's take a look down here too. These are 17-inch wheels. That tells me Subaru gets it. There's a ton of sidewall on these Bridgestone duelers, and that's fantastic. It's a 225/65 section, and they're an all-terrain tire, so this actually is going to get you down the trail to some extent. One of my favorite things in the world are Subaru videos where you see a group of ridiculously built off-road Toyotas and Land Rovers and stuff, and then some Subaru Outback or Crosstrek rolls up and just does the thing that these people built their trucks to do, and they're in like a stock Subaru. This hatch is power. That's a premium feature over what you might get in the Crosstrek. And then back here, sorry, it's a little dark, but you can see this Harman Kardon subwoofer. I've got my packing blanket because I am ready to put the bike in here and not damage anything. And then let's see, do we have a spare? If you're going to be an off-road thing, that's the stuff, baby. All right, see, this is the thing. They get it. You cannot tell me you have an off-road thing, a wilderness, without a spare tire. And that is one full-size spare under here with a proper jack. Yes, that makes me so happy. And it tells me they absolutely get it. And they didn't like shove it like right under there, so it actually doesn't impact that departure angle like some vehicles do. That's pretty darn cool. There's no tonneau cover to speak of right now, but there actually is, because this privacy cover folds up. And when I first saw this, I thought this is cumbersome and annoying, because I often am the person who's like in my Honda throwing this across, or my Lexus pulling it back. This latches on to like these guys. And at first I thought, that's annoying, I don't want to deal with this. But then I realized, when you need to put stuff in the car, you don't have to go find a special place for your giant tonneau cover receptacle. You can just tightly fold this up, throw it in this little cargo net, and would you look at that, we're good to go. In the back, so this is the thing. It seems like they went bigger on this vehicle because people wanted more, unfortunately. I wish that everyone just was cool with a sedan and a regular station wagon, but no, we've got to go bigger, The Wilderness gets lots of premium features, so you're going to get 2-stage heated seats for the outboards. You've got USB-A and USB-A and USB-C down here, and same up front. So plenty of places to charge up. Very comfortable leather seats. These are definitely more premium than that of the REI Backpack Spec Crosstrek Hybrid that we had a couple weeks ago. And this actually, I think the texture of this headliner is just such a throwback to the old days. I mean, the headliner genuinely looks like a 90s Subaru. Up front though, oh boy, we're gonna get into this, but I am thrilled that they got rid of that nightmare infotainment system that I did not like in the older Subarus. This new generation gets a much nicer screen, and it's not kind of this goofy tablet thing. You get actual buttons for your HVAC controls and seat heaters. This one does not have the ventilated front seats, but you can option them. So that's a thing you can do. But because we're putting the bike back here, we've got these great handles. How cool is this? They're like actual door handles. Your 60-40 split goes down, and then we can spread this out and get the bike in the back. I am just smitten with the space in this thing, but then again, it makes sense because it is basically an SUV now. Now, style-wise, I have felt a little goofy in this thing. I actually saw one kid, he was probably 20, 22 years old, had his mountain bike on the back. He drove by me in his brand new Wilderness, gave me the thumbs up, and that is the only thumbs up to speak of while driving this vehicle. I drove past a group of young kids the other day in my neighborhood, and normally I'm driving my Civic Type R or my Porsche, or the other day I had the LFA here, and like, I kind of like that image of like, wow, look at this car. And I drove down the street in this, and they just didn't even look at me. I looked, you know, it is just an car, as Topher Brower and Jeremy Clarkson might say. But let's pack it up with the bike. We're going to take it out on a little adventure today, and I'm going to show you what it's like to live with the Subaru Outback Wilderness. Car's all packed, ready to go, but there's two things I want to talk about first. One is, when I heard Tanasi from Money Shift describe this car as wearing suspenders, it all came together. It really does look like the car is wearing suspenders. And the second thing I really like about this car is these door pockets are lined with cloth. And that means I can put these annoying hard things in here, and they don't rattle around. I had a Land Rover Defender the other day. Well, I guess it does if I have this in there. That's for a flash. I had a Defender the other day, and it was incessantly driving me nuts because I had this bottle of sunscreen in there, and it was knocking around in the door, and I had to explain to passengers, like, no, it's not build quality. It's just stuff that I have in the door pockets. I love to store stuff in the door pockets. In fact, I usually put my cycling water bottles in the door pockets. Those aren't going to make any noise, but still, it's just one of those things. Now, Brower, Topher Drives, said, yeah, that's great until you spill stuff in it because, look, I'm not trying to typecast you Subaru owners, but I feel like the cleanest your car ever is the day you bought it, and then you passively wash it in the rain for the rest of its 20 years of life. So maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but I do like the door pockets that reduce the sounds. So let's jump in and start it up. And this cold start has something a little bit special in store for you. Are you ready for this? It idles at like almost 2,000 RPM for kind of a while. It's kind of a heavy idle. Oh, we are gonna need to get gas. It has reasonable fuel economy. I've been getting 26.2, not a marathon, but I guess in 1 gallon of fuel, we could have run one. And it does like over 400 miles of range. When I first got it, it said 490, and then I lost like 100 miles in the first 10 miles. So it was really optimistic when I filled this tank the first time. So we're gonna go put some fuel in it and see what we do, but somewhere around 415 to 420 miles of range is pretty darn good, except that this is the lowest range of all the trim levels. And the reason for that is the lift and the tires, because it's got the big boy engine, that 2.4 turbo, whereas the lower trim levels have the naturally aspirated 2.5, and then you're going to lose rolling resistance with that, and air is going to be your enemy when you raise the thing up. So it's not a huge loss, but the other trim levels are able to achieve over 500 miles of range. If that's important to you and you don't need the ground clearance, maybe that's a thing you go for. To get it into reverse, we have a traditional shifter. We have fantastic cameras. This is the stuff I really like to see in sort of ordinary people pleaser cars. The only thing is it can be like a little bit laggy. Not laggy, but it's just a little choppy on the reverse. And you don't want that to pause because something could come into your driving line while that's paused. Not that big a deal. I'm sure the Subaru is outrageously safe. The seating position, it's pretty tall. I can't get any lower than this, and I would like to get lower than this, but that's okay. We're gonna forgive it. It's not a Porsche, but it's nice that you can just kind of slam through any of these bumps. Also has electronic dampers. That's a first for these cars. And it's really comfortable and well damped. It's soft. It's softer than my GX. And I noticed it because I was going over speed bumps at my gym. And in the GX, I got to slow way down for them. They're a little uncomfortable. In this, it's like a Citroen 2CV. And that right there is why I don't hate this CVT. It makes so much use of its power because it's always able to stay in the correct power band. You're not having to wait for any shifts or lose any torque or power because it's got to shift and then you lose revs. This thing gets out of the hole and rips, and it's fantastic. When I'll show you when we get on the highway, it is a real treat. Why don't we put a little fuel in this thing? I think she takes regular. Oh my God. I haven't put regular gas into anything in so long. I could be wrong though. I could be greeted with a premium badge. Oh, that's the stuff. $389. I could weep. Get a second startup. All right, we've got enough fuel to do what we need to do today. Let's get out there. got Apple CarPlay. That's nice, and it's interesting because there's no other buttons on this, so it's like Apple CarPlay as an inlay inside the UX. So you can have this home screen, you can use the navigation that it has built in, or you can use Waze, what I prefer. You also have the opportunity to change a lot of the menus. Right now I like to have it on my trip odometer average, so then I can see that. But I can also change this screen and get different layouts for my dashboard. So look, right there, now I've actually got Waze from the Apple CarPlay on the center of my screen, which is great because some cars don't allow you to do that. Some cars will give you that navigation, but it will only be the built-in navigation, not the navigation you're actually using on Apple CarPlay. So that's trick stuff. You can also just simplify it a little bit. I just prefer to have, I know, I'm looking at you. This is gonna be a beep-filled drive, guys, that's for sure. All right, we are gonna use this lane because for whatever reason, people don't like to use the full capacity of the road, and we're gonna let this happen. Lovely. Anyway, my favorite screen is with the proper tachometer, the proper speedometer. I've already got this here. We're good to go. I suppose there's an accident ahead. I don't know. Everyone's just texting. Of course there's an accident ahead. Ooh, that's a bad one. That's not a good one. I don't even know. How do you do that? Well, they look okay, so we can talk about it. The heck was that? Oh, my bike is shifting. That was my bicycle. Okay, we're gonna have to adjust that. Not bad. It's got some juice. I mean, it actually goes. And you're paying big money, right? You're paying nearly $50,000 for this thing, so you don't want it to be anemic, and it's not. Fast, no, but it's plenty. It's a little more than you need. All right, we're gonna put on cruise control. It has adaptive cruise control, of course, but one thing that annoys me is I hate adaptive cruise control. I might be alone in this, but hear me out. I do not like it because it always slows down before I just want to make the pass, and then I have to regain the speed. I end up killing my fuel economy. So here's the thing. In most cars, when you turn on cruise control and you've turned off adaptive cruise control, it will just give you the last setting you did. Every time I restart this car, it starts off in adaptive cruise control, which means I have to press and hold this button every single time. Now, my Lexus GX does this too. It just is what it is. It's an extra step. But I just want to let you know that that is the case. But you cannot use the steering function, the lane keep assist, when you don't have ACC on. So that is a little bit annoying because in my Honda, I can do that. I can turn off ACC and then I can also have it do my lane assist. So here's the thing too, right? Right now, adaptive cruise control will be hitting the brakes on me instead of allowing me to just comfortably making this pass. And I know, you're saying, well, why don't you just make the pass before ACC recognizes that car? True, except then I have to genuinely calculate distance exactly, and sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I get a little closer, and then it slows me down, and then I gotta regain the speed. It's not good for anybody. I think a lot of traffic is actually caused by adaptive cruise control because I think people just leave it on, and then instead of making a clean pass, they just slow down. And then suddenly, instead of cruising at 75, 73, whatever miles an hour, yeah, this reads a little high, so we're not going 75, they slow down to whatever speed the guy in front of them was doing. And so then, if they decide to stay there, well, now they've just built up a wall of traffic. If they decide to move over and past them, they've lost 5, 10 miles per hour, and then they've got to regain it, which means someone coming up the left side, using the lane correctly, is gonna end up having to slow down for them. So it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. I have lots of thoughts on traffic, as you know. But out here on the highway, very comfortable. Relatively well insulated. You definitely get some wind noise. There's a little bit of tire noise from the dualers, as one would expect from an all-terrain tire. At around 78 to 80 miles an hour, these tires do start to give you like a little bit of a wob 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 sound, and it's just letting you know, like, hey man, you're an all-terrain tire. What do you think you're doing? And that's fine. I don't really have any problem with that. Get up past this Airstream. Look at this Prius getting it wide open. I don't think you did that well enough because you just had to make that Explorer brake. Sometimes you got to be patient, boys and girls. If you got the juice, send her, bud. But if you don't, you got to wait your turn. All right, look at this gorgeous Airstream. I've never even been in an Airstream. I don't know why I love them so much. Just one of those things. You just got to call them out. Steering. I think, overall, Subaru steering racks are too fast. I do. I think that they're a little too twitchy, and I think this car, because it's got all the sidewall, it kind of softens it because it's not quite as responsive because it's got to get through that sidewall before it can translate the turn, right? So this one works out. I would prefer them to relax their steering a little bit. I understand that they want the cars to feel sporty, but sometimes they feel a little nervous. And I think the clientele who's looking for the WRX is totally in tune with a faster steering rack, but I think the clientele looking at the Impreza, the Crosstrek, the Outback, I think they don't need a super duper fast steering rack. I think they end up getting a little nervous and swervy, if you catch my drift. We're gonna go to Boston Motorsports. I gotta take a couple pictures for them, and then we're gonna go up to Peabody to the Jaguar Land Rover store and take some pictures for them, and then I'm gonna go ride my bike. All set at Boston Motorsports. This Subaru doesn't quite fit in this parking lot. Boston Motorsports technically is a Maserati and Alfa Romeo dealership, but they don't sell a whole lot of those. So what they really do is they sell tons of awesome used cars. Right now they're in an Audi kick, so there's a whole bunch of RS6 wagons here. Some of them are abt-tuned monsters, some of them are just stocky boys. There's always a bunch of GT3s and some Lamborghinis like Huracans and stuff. And up here, I don't remember the name of this color, but very cool G63. We just had a Defender the other day, and I think now I'm a Defender boy. I love a G-Wagon, but I think I'm a Defender boy. Could also convince me to get into a DBX, but the infotainment drives me super bonkers. But now we got to head up to Land Rover, get a couple photos for them, and look, we can get out of the hole here. It's so smooth. This is Soldiers Field Road, which turns into Storrow Drive. I mean, it really is Storrow Drive. But if you'll notice, there was a cars only sign back there and very low bridges. Sometimes these get damaged because here in Boston, when a U-Haul truck, typically moving college students in and out at certain times of year, gets Storrowed, it means that it was stripped like a fish can, like an anchovy can, because people just don't realize they're not supposed to be on this road. And there's a lot of parkways like this in New York that people totally understand. Like, okay, you don't drive a bus, you don't drive a truck there. People still do that here, and it's insane. All right, we got a Cayman up here. It looks like he wants to get around us. Maybe not. All right, well, anyway. Just giving him the option. He's trying to be a nice guy. Is it a base Cayman? Looks like a base Cayman. Base 987. That's a nice car. It's got kind of a Hank Hill butt, though, with those wheels. They need to be spaced out a little bit. I'm not even a stancy boy. I don't care that much, but it does look a little bit goofy like that. It needs wider rear rubber. He's hitting one of my favorite turns. We'll do it, too. Now we're properly on Storo. Now you can see the 10-foot ground clearance. That definitely works, but that's about as tall as you get on this road. Let's see, left lane etiquette on Storo is almost non-existent. And I don't think we're gonna get it from the Ascent. But now I look like I'm doing that too. Because see, this Acura, he wants to get around, but sorry, bud, them's the brakes. You got a slow Subaru followed by a following Subaru. That's the deal. That's the deal, bud. This suspension, though, good Lord, is this a comfortable car. I was really not expecting this to be quite this plush and luxurious from a chassis standpoint. I mean, it feels really nice. If this was harsh and a little brutal over some bumps, I would have had no qualms with it. I would have thought, well, it's an Outback, it's a Subaru, you should feel what's going on a little bit, but this is really nice. And I think, I could be wrong here, but I think this is maybe their first electrically damped adjustable suspension on these cars, and they nailed it, like knocked it out of the park. This feels so good. It's always barking at me. I will say sometimes the quote-unquote safety features of this car are just distracting me. I'm sure you can, well, I don't know, actually, I'm not sure you can turn them all off. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. You guys, you Subaru people will let me know. I know there's a dedicated following, so whether you own one or you're going to own one or you're just a fan of the brand, I know you'll be in the comments letting me know what's what. And that's great. I can learn from you. That's Boston University right here. It's a lot. I mean, it's a huge campus, but this area of that lawn, just people out there sunbathing, enjoying the day. We'll just hang out on the right. Kenmore Square and Fenway Park up there. Coming up through Back Bay. Across the river is Cambridge. That building right there with the big white radar-y thing on top is an MIT building. That's the Earth and Atmospheric Sciences building, and it's stratified. So the bottom is geology, the top is space. So it goes from basically the core of the Earth up through weather, up through like literal space. So I once, when I was young, my dad had an inn at one of the labs there on the top floor, and we were looking at the Mars rover photos from Spirit and Opportunity way, way back. That was what, 2004? And I got to see the first photos coming off of those things from JPL, which was just absolutely the coolest thing. Let's head over here. And now, a little bit of traffic, because it's Boston, baby. It's the deal. We are going to take the expressway north. It wouldn't be Boston without some tunnels. And some traffic. Oh my goodness. It looks like there's like a cleanup crew down here. Let's hope this changed for you. Don't you love it? All these Toyotas, they all have automatic lights. But for whatever reason, I swear, every single owner and every single Toyota turns them off and just decides, no, I'll do it myself, which means they never turn their lights on. Oh, that's disconcerting. It's crazy how we have the technology to turn your lights on when it's dark, and yet we still get cars, like brand new cars, keep them off. This is such a fun road when you're in a sports car and it's like the middle of the night. Look how low this is. Imagine that. Downshift in a GT3 RS around this corner. You do have to be cautious though, because they're so blind. I mean, if there was just a traffic jam behind this, you had no idea. I'm not encouraging it. Don't do it. But if you did, it's pretty fun. If you have a loud enough car, you can do things at low speeds that are quite entertaining. Plus you get these double walls here. So downshift, downshift. I'm only staying in the left lane because I'm pretty sure I have to be in the left lane to go where I'm going. I'm probably wrong about that. It's going to merge anyway, so sorry. I am contributing to the lane etiquette problem today, but I haven't driven this in a while and I kind of forgot. All right, we're coming up on TD Garden. The Garden, that's where the Bruins and the Celtics play. That's right here, which means we're past the north end. And this is Zakem Bridge. Iconic city skyline. Unfortunately, it's kind of behind us. But we're going to get off on Route 1 because we're taking the Tobin up through Revere because we're going to Peabody. I'm actually looking at the road, but I'm giving you guys the camera so you can see off to the right. Left? Jeez. God, I can't even do left from right now. Your boy needs a meal. There we go. There's that skyline. All right, so this is the Tobin Bridge that we're going to go under, or over, I should say, but we're on the lower deck. Oh, dead Range Rover. RIP. We're going to Land Rover right now. Who'd have thought? A Range Rover with problems, an Evoque with a problem, with a reliability issue? I'm shocked. Shocked! And this bridge is old. In fact, all the paint, like the dust, like there's a whole problem down here because the dust comes off this bridge and goes onto the houses down there. It's really awful, actually. It's kind of disgusting. But this bridge is really old, or as we would say, wicked old. While we're driving, you might notice my sunnies are down here on the wireless phone charger, which I never use because they get too hot and I don't like it. But you'd think, hey, Tedward, why don't you use this wonderfully convenient sunglasses holder that these interior designers so lovingly added as a premium feature? Well, I tried. And these sunnies, which are not that big, they don't fit, man. It's too wide. They're too wide for it. So I can't fit my sunglasses in there. You gotta oversize the sunglass cubby. The sunglass cubby I understand that maybe it can't fit my cycling glasses, they're pretty big, but it is inappropriate for these slim little guys to not be able to fit. So, auto designers, if you're gonna do this, do not tease me with a small cubby. You gotta give a big one, big cubby. Okay, now is the traffic. Now it's normal. Now this feels like proper Boston stuff. All right, we're gonna enjoy a lane merge up here because we're gonna use the available roadway until it goes away because we're not stupid. We can comfortably zip a merge up here. It's gonna be great. We're behind this wonderful M2 competition. What a perfect day. Although it's been kind of raining oddly on and off. You can smell lovely salt water. There's all these salt marshes. Originally I was gonna go ride up by the beach, but it was so windy and those roads were unfamiliar to me, and I just didn't want to get knocked around off my bike in a crosswind on a busy road with tourists going to the beach. So I decided to find my way back into central Massachusetts and get into the woods a little bit. The trees should block some of this wind. A little bit of an attempt from the RAV4, but lowering the speeds is good too. Just like a Topher. He rides a unicycle. Some of him's off-road. I've gone mountain biking with him when he rides a unicycle. It's the craziest shit I've ever seen. Obviously you see a lot of cars when you're riding on the road, but like, look at this little guy. It's like a Trabant or something. I mean, you see things behind buildings when you ride bike trails, and it's like this whole other world that you don't see from the street. And it cuts through people's backyards and all these businesses, and I don't know, man. I know that all the real cyclists are like, you gotta ride on the road, but there's some value to seeing the stuff behind the scenes and not having to focus on getting murdered by all of those monsters on their cell phones. Thank you. Two-door Evoque, dilapidated Celica, and my favorite, where's the murder van? There's the murder van. Oh, bad things happen in that van. Oh my God. And we're back to the trusty Subaru. As long as we didn't lose our keys, I hope. There you go. I guess we still got them. So it's kind of nice that this has this plastic bumper, so like you don't feel too guilty leaning a bike. It is leaned gracefully. But for those curious about the bike, it's a specialized Tarmac SL7 comp, so nothing too special. The Pro has a better gear set. This is just Shimano 105 stuff, but you know what, I'm no pro and I don't care. I just needed to get out there on something nice, and I wanted to treat myself. I had never bought a new bike before, and I run lights even when I'm gonna be on a trail, just because, as you can see, it's so much dappled light out there. A lot of times if someone is riding very fast, they don't even notice you. So anyway, let's get this thing back in the car. Now look, I know some of the gear looks goofy. It is what it is, but it's quite practical. Obviously you need a helmet. These sunglasses
kind of saved my eyes today, because at one point I was going through some dark area and a branch hit me right in the face and it slammed right into the glasses. So the bigger the glasses, the better. And honestly, having a little bit of side protection is great, because when you get those crosswinds, you get all kinds of rocks and stuff. I wear gloves now. I have gone down a couple times, and every time I've gone down on a bike, I went down in the dumbest way. It was usually at a stop sign, or I was like literally stopping somewhere and trying to figure out like, oh, what am I doing next? And then I didn't unclip and I tipped over and landed on my hand, and you tear up your palms. So this simple act of just some gloves can go a long way in keeping you protected. It's you know, a destroyed palm is a real mess for a few days or a couple weeks, depending on how bad it is. And then get your jersey. All kinds of little snacks and stuff back here. So I got my phone, a little trail mix, liquid IV, and then I keep my keys and my wallet back here too. So you can fit a ton of stuff in these jerseys. So that's that. I'm not going to strip in front of you because it's a family channel.
So final thoughts on the Outback Wilderness. Actually, let me move it back so we can see the whole thing in the light while we do this. Living with this Outback Wilderness for the week has been a completely different experience than living with the Crosstrek. And then I actually feel a little, I mean, no disrespect, I feel a little nerdy driving the Outback. Although I did have a couple people wave to me and definitely share the enthusiasm. But I will say that this latest Outback generation absolutely stays true to the heritage of the brand. And this vehicle is actually a dream to drive. The style, I think, is just a little over the top. The big square wheel wells, some of the badges all over the place, and the accents. My suggestion, if anyone cares, just try a little less. I think the subtle Subaru is okay. I don't think it needs all the excessive cladding and trim pieces and little accents. That's fine. It would be totally fine for this to fly slightly less over the radar, slightly more under the radar. But what I will say is, from a chassis and powertrain and drivability perspective, this is a phenomenal car. And I don't know that I would have really understood that had I not put 500 miles on it. The suspension is an absolute dream. The lift, I've never had to worry about anything. I've gone through some serious construction zones with raised things, and Massachusetts is not shy about putting a manhole cover this high above the ground. Now I'm watching people navigate, and I can just drive straight over it in this. This car can do a couple different things. It can be the Subaru enthusiast daily driver, where maybe you've got some STI sitting in the garage that you're building up for track days and all that good stuff, and this is your daily driver. It can also be the everyman's car, where you just need some utilitarian thing to do all of the work. And look, you can absolutely do that with a RAV4 Prime or something like that, but this all-wheel drive system is obviously special. And the fact that we still get a proper Boxer 4-cylinder under the hood of this thing, like I said in the beginning, it's starting to feel more exotic in 2026, and it's great that they've stayed absolutely true to that heritage. Now, one thing that I'm a little bummed out about, which I mentioned earlier, is just that it's become an SUV. This is more of a small crossover than it is a station wagon. And I think that's the only reason why I feel a little bit nerdy driving it, because it's just a little too big proportionally. But obviously, it does what it needs to do for its passengers. There's tons of room in here. I had no issue putting the bike in here. The Crosstrek, for example, was a great car, but it was definitely limited on space. It was much easier for me to put my road bike, in that Civic Type R than it was in the Crosstrek. But in this Outback, you genuinely get proper space. The interior, I think, because Subaru is sort of a, quote unquote budget brand, I suppose, the interior quality is fantastic. I'm really happy with the new infotainment screen, although it did have a couple little glitches with CarPlay, which could have been my phone, but I didn't have issues with that in my car the other day. Simple stuff, it just didn't let me ask Siri to send text messages. I could hear them, but I couldn't send them back. Not the biggest deal, and you know what? Could have been me, so I'm not going to blame the car. And I've managed to get nearly 27 miles per gallon out of the 485 miles that I put on it. So that's not terribly bad, because that's about the same MPGs that I'm getting in my Civic Type R right now, and this is providing a lot more practicality, let's say, and it's all-wheel drive. I've even been really impressed with the powertrain. It's got loads of torque, plenty of power, and because it's not shifting through gears in a traditional automatic, which is slightly unfortunate, but man, does this CVT just keep the thing rolling. It always puts you in the correct power band, and it feels fast. It does. It feels kind of quick, especially relative to that Crosstrek. So that is gonna do it for me this week with the Subaru Outback Wilderness. If you've got nearly $50,000 that you're looking to spend on a daily driver that's pretty bulletproof, all-wheel drive, traditional internal combustion engine, I think you got to take a look. And I do think that this, at the very least, is cooler than a Forester. No offense to the Forester, but I don't think it's as cool as the Crosstrek, but it's more practical than the Crosstrek. So those are the things I've got to say about that. If you have any questions about this Subaru Outback Wilderness, I'll do my best to answer them. But until next time, with the next ordinary car that we're driving in the next week, I think I've got a Kia. That's going to conclude my week with the Subaru Outback Wilderness. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. If you've got any other questions about this thing, please don't hesitate to comment. If you've got one, tell me what your experience is like. And if you're looking for one, I mean, I hope this helps you kind of figure out if this is the correct thing for you, or if you want to pony up a little more money for a little more room and a little more power than the Crosstrek. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.